Yeah, so welcome everyone. Again, I'm Leila on behalf of Yara Europe, but I'm Yara Europe Sicily as an officer based in Turkey. And this is great pleasure to be today on this call with you. Beside this role in Yara Europe, I have another role on a global level as individual membership coordinator. And this is great pleasure to co-organize this webinar together with Baraza, our long-standing partners and very active CCs. I just want to invite you as a technical support from my side to use chat option to introduce yourself, to rename yourself by adding location next to your name, and to share in chat like where are you coming from, what is your role, some interest, and maybe some contact information if you would like to stay in touch with some of the people on this call today. So this is just like from my side. If you have any kind of, let's say, technical needs, issue, or anything like that, I will be more than happy to help you by using your chat option. And I will give floor to Karima to give us some introduction to the topic, to introduce our partners and the flow of today's call. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Leila. Hello again from my side. I'm Karima. I'm the Yara Europe coordinator. And it's my big pleasure to welcome you once again. Yeah, so we have the topic addressing polarization through interfaith dialogue. We think that we do live in a time of increasing polarization, and we know that many of our members and partners are working on that topic. And we want to give the community a chance to explore the topic and also exchange about the topic and learn from each other. As we know, we have a couple of people who are new to URI. I'd like to say United Religions Initiative is the global interfaith network. And we have interfaith groups, which we call cooperation circles, cooperation and circles, which are two beautiful words, in more than half of the world. So there is over 1,000 of these groups in over 100 countries worldwide. The purpose is to create enduring daily interfaith cooperation, to end religiously motivated violence, and to create cultures of peace, justice, and healing for the earth and all living beings. And I think these are topics that all of us can relate to. Last but not least, I'd like to mention that URI has an affiliation with the United Nations in different places, a strong youth program, ecological program, and violence prevention program. Yeah, so that's it. I don't want to be too long. Great, we are here. We dedicate this webinar to UN Day of Living Together in Peace, which was on 15th of May. It's past, but we are still close enough so that we think we can dedicate this webinar to it. And with that, I like to hand over to Yona, who will speak on Baraza's side as our beautiful partner.
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome also from my or our side. My name is Yona, and I am the project coordinator, quite new, of Baraza, an independent international nonprofit organization. Baraza is a Swahili word meaning council or meeting place, and it is simply a place where people get together, share news, ideas, and try to solve common problems together. It is in this spirit that Baraza was formed in 2017 in Munich, here in Germany, where I am today. Baraza is dedicated to the global promotion of peaceful thinking, tolerance in areas of culture and religion, and understanding among nations. We believe in the ideals of acceptance, understandings, coexistence. Our work is expanding all the time. We have run several programs, including seminars, conferences, courses, and events. We're responsible for the concept, planning, and delivery of the exhibition Tolerance, Understanding, Coexistence, which is the Sultanate of Oman's message of Islam. We have also created a world religions coloring book for kids, which is available in 16 languages and has been distributed in many places. And our flagship life skills program is called Unity for Next Gen, which is an exciting, inspiring scheme for young people. It builds self-confidence, it provides an encounter-based learning environment to create citizens who are open-minded, skilled, and resilient to face some of society's challenge. It has been implemented so far in Germany, India, and the UK, and we are currently planning also to here at the school in North Rhine-Westphalia. I would like to thank our partner organization, URI Europe, with whom we have worked to make today possible. And as last remark, please follow us on Facebook and our website. I will post the links, of course, in the chat. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Jona. Wonderful to be here together. Yeah, so then we can start with the inputs from our great speakers, and Rias will introduce our first speaker. And you can also find the information in the chat.
Okay, that's Jona again.
Yes, exactly. It's my part. Okay, so to introduce our speaker, Dr. Brian Adams is an advisor to Baraza and chair of the governing board for A Common Word Among the Youth, an international NGO supporting youth leadership in interfaith and intercultural dialogue. He was founding director of the Center for Interfaith and Cultural Dialogue in Brisbane, Australia, and the architect of the G20 Interfaith Forum, among other dialogue platforms. He has over 20 years of experience working in Africa, Europe, North America, and the Asia Pacific, gaining fluency in French and Swahili, along with his native English. As holder of Doctorate of Philosophy and Political Science and 2 master's degrees in Community Development and Conflict Resolution, Dr. Adams focuses on the promotion of interreligious, intercultural, and interorganizational respect and understanding. As a former Rhetoric Peace Fellow, Brian is primarily focused on respect and understanding across cultural, religious, and organizational boundaries. Welcome, Dr. Brian Adams.
You are muted, please.
Yes, I see that. Thank you very much. How long do I have to present?
About 10 minutes.
10. Okay. Then I better jump on it. So Brian Adams, as you know, yes, that is a famous name. I suspect many on this call might actually recognize that. The other night, maybe 2 nights ago, I was lying down with my youngest son, putting him to bed, and we were having a little chat, and he said, "Dad, the other day in school, I Googled you, and you're famous." And I didn't have the heart to ask him, was it me or was it this other singer he found? I didn't want to, destroy his the pride he had in his father. But I said, yes, in some circles, yes, I might be considered famous. So I let it go like that. So what I'd like to speak about today is the theme, how to build unity through dialogue. So how are we going to sidestep polarization and go directly towards unity? Now, to do that, I want to define a problem. I want to discuss how dialogue is a necessary part of the solution to this problem. Then I want to talk about 2 heuristic models for a bit that might be of interest to any of you. And then finally share 2 on-the-ground applications of these models. And then we'll see where the discussion goes from there. So the problem that I wanted to discuss today is the decline in public participation. We're finding in the United States, this has been a trend that's been going on for over 20 years now, but a decline in church attendance, charity organization, volunteer, as well as donations, enrollment and participation in organizations such as Rotary and the Lions Club and so on and so forth. And then most famously, bowling leagues, as one author studied so assiduously. And why is this a problem? Well, first of all, there's a strong debate going on. Is it evidence of, or is this a driver of weakening social cohesion? Now, I feel I'm preaching to a choir here when I talk about the importance of social cohesion. But is this being driven by this lack of participation or declining participation, or is it evidence, or is this declining participation evidence of weakening social cohesion? That's very important, but I think there's an even more pertinent aspect that often isn't discussed in relation to this decline, and it's the idea that that means we're having less lessened or fewer opportunities to encounter others in a safe, connecting environment. A bowling league, for example, isn't just made up of people of the same color, nationality, political interest. It's made up of people who like to bowl. Churches, mosques, synagogues, temples aren't just made up of people in a general case of the same ethnicity, the same political leanings. They're people who believe in the Holy Scriptures or those that lead and profess that wisdom. And so this is very, very important to those of us who engage in dialogue. And so I want to discuss or present on the importance of dialogue, of creating dialogue platforms and dialogue structures that specifically counter the decline in public participation, or at least try to provide opportunities and settings in which the others can meet. To do this, they need to replicate this setting or this opportunity. For us to really be successful, quite honestly, we have to have leadership recognize and support this. That's leadership in our communities, political, business, media, and that's quite a challenge. And it's one of the challenges that I most conscientiously addressed in my time as director of the Center for Interfaith and Cultural Dialogue. But at the same time, they're key. But we can't, as we can see in today's polarized environment, we can't rely on them to do this. So we need to take a bit of leadership ourselves to provide these opportunities and convince our leaders to do this. We can address that in a little bit, if you want. We can get back to that particular point. But I want to share a story real quickly. I had been our center had been contracted by the Queensland government, so the state of Queensland in Australia. The government came and said, Brian, we have a number of issues that we want to gain a grasp of. Can you lead a number of dialogues around the state? So we organize dialogues between indigenous and settler populations, between religious groups, new migrant communities, and even some between or participated in by various government departments in the Queensland government. And one in particular was the government departments. This fella showed up and he looked like he was in his 40s, but his attitude was 13. He was, you know, you've seen it. My parents or my teacher have made me come to this, and no matter what you say, I'm not going to have fun. I'm here because I have to be. And he sat down with his arms folded, grimly nodded to others. But as we worked through the dialogue, he warmed up, leaned forward, began to ask questions and participate. And at the end, he came up to me and he said, you know, I really enjoyed this, Brian. This was very, very interesting for me. But let's be honest. What is the value of this? I was a bit surprised. See, I thought perhaps he began to find some value in it and realize it throughout the dialogue process, but perhaps not. So I asked him a question. I said, are you married? And he was a bit surprised, like, where did that come from? Yes, I am. I said, okay. If you went home to your wife today and didn't say much to her, how would that be? Well, in reality, that happens. I said, yes, that's right. Same thing in my home. If you didn't say much to each other for a week, how would that be? Well, that probably wouldn't be great. I said, that's right. How about if you went an entire month without really saying other than hello, goodbye, have a good day, you know, nothing of substance between you exchanged. And then a challenge came up. How would you guys handle that? They said, well, it would probably be pretty tough. And I said, that's right. You ask, what is the value in the dialogue? My answer is, what is the value in the relationship? If you value the relationship, then you invest in it, and dialogue is an important part of it. And that's what we're trying to do. unfortunately, that isn't recognized by many of our leaders, that they don't recognize the value of investing in the relationship that they need to be building in our homes, in our communities, and in our nations. So that's what a lot of my work is, I feel, is trying to build those relationships. So if we're talking about dialogue, platforms that can replicate, or maybe not replicate, but at least provide similar benefits as public participation institutions provide, that would be dialogue between whom? So I want to share two models, one at more of a societal level, and then one at a more of a community level, to kind of help us begin to grasp where it is we could be focusing some of our work, and maybe find some potential partners in there that we hadn't thought of previously. Now, I realize I'm speaking to a rather elite group, and many of you have already come along to this point. But I think it's worth sharing my articulation of some of these. So can you just give me a quick thumbs up if you see the three circles here? Thank you. So I call this the 3D dialogue model. And this is at a higher level, the societal level, I call it. And in Western liberal systems, you could break it down this way, in which you have institutions of definers of social norms and laws. You have defenders of those definitions, and then you have the developers of those definitions. So that can be like, the definers could be legislative bodies and policymakers, while defenders would be human rights commissions, judicial boards and bodies, and even police and military, depending on the jurisdiction. And then finally, you have developers. And this is, I would say broadly, again, in the Western liberal context, is civil society. It's where these norms, these articulations of norms, these laws are tested, are applied, reworked, rechallenged, and then again feeds into, hopefully, ideally, the definers. And so we want to support dialogue between each of these Ds, between each of these broader institutions. And if we find that we're trying to address large issues such as polarization without engaging across these three, we might be much less effective than if we're working across all three. Now, this isn't to say that you need to always bring the highest level of all three together every single time, but keeping these three definers, defenders, developers in mind for your strategic planning and approaches, your relationship building, your events, the impact that you want to have is absolutely essential. Now, how do I switch to, so I stop share, and then we'll go to another one. So that's more at the societal level. Now I want to talk about a model at more of a community level. Again, thumbs up if you see the circle with the pretty colors, primary colors. So this I call the Countering Community Division Framework. And we developed this specifically in response to the countering violent extremism broader agendas that we found in a number of countries, including Australia and the United States and the UK. And we wanted to have a framework that would allow us to see broadly the drivers of radicalization. I call it extremization, but much of the literature calls it radicalization. But that would give us the opportunity to bring in partners from across the community. Now, remember, I'm trying to talk about how to develop dialogue platforms that bring others, again, in quotes, together in a safe environment or in a comfortable environment, or with a focus that they would contribute to, and by so doing, develop relationships and broader understanding, such as could happen in a bowling league or in a church or a religious community. So you'll see that there's the external drivers that are broken down into 3 areas. There are individual drivers, cognitive and emotional, and there are social drivers. And working with identifying partners who work in each of these spaces are essential for addressing a broad community issue, such as violent extremism. Now, so these are just a couple models that we've used, developed in our work, and we've used quite successfully. And now I'd like to just share a couple of applications of these models, one for each of them. So looking at the 3D dialogue model, see if I can share this again. In relation to COVID. So in Queensland, so as you know, COVID, it was no respecter of any division that we are humans are willing to create and throw up between us. It hit everybody. And though there were differential impacts among the aged, among the more vulnerable, homeless, and people, there were those with health issues. My mother, for example, passed away from COVID. But so this is a broad issue that was challenged, was challenging leadership at every level. So early on in the COVID pandemic, I wrote an opinion piece in, I forget what, it doesn't matter where it was published, but I wrote an opinion piece saying that if the government was serious about implementing COVID policy, they needed to take religious and philosophical communities on board as partners. Otherwise, they would struggle tremendously. In the United States, we see that wasn't very successful, and there are many challenges from within those communities to that. But in Queensland, someone in the government actually read it and responded and said, "This seems interesting. Let's do this." And so they contracted with our center to do a dialogue with to actually consult with the broad range of faith communities. So we began to have, say, the defining aspect of this model, wanting to communicate with the developers of this that we would find in this model. But the challenge was we didn't have defenders. And I worried that if it was just the government and faith communities talking, the enforcement arm, the medical arm, and the supporters of the policies that we may come about, that we may develop, it would be less effective without them on board as well. Because it was a period in which enforcers gained the upper hand in a lot of policy implementation. So we did some consultations that proved very useful to the government in conceptualizing their approach to COVID policy implementation. And then they came back and said, "We would like you to write this policy for us." And this was our opportunity. So we said, we're absolutely happy to, but what that would mean is we're going to have continued dialogue between our faith community leaders, between representatives from the government, as well as those that are enforcing these policies. And we were able to do that. We had them on board and produced the policy recommendations for places of worship, I think was the final title for it. And I can say that it saved lives. Queensland had a much greater level of understanding, respectful dialogue and exchange, and then did New South Wales or Victoria, for example, in Australia. So working at this level can make an enormous impact in lives.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think I would love to hear more. It will be good to have also Deepak give his observations. Sure. Thank you so much for stressing the importance of relationship building and the value of it that is sometimes overlooked, and also of presenting your models of definers, developers, and defenders, and as well as the different societal sectors. It's been so interesting, and I hope we can come back in the conversation. And I would like to give the floor to Deepak then. Deepak, can you please share your observations? And I think we have a little introduction from Angelina first.
Yes. Thank you, Karima. Hello, everyone from my side. I'm Angelina. I'm serving as EURA Europe Liaison Officer, and I'm based in Sofia, Bulgaria. It is my honor and pleasure to present you our second speaker for today, our dear friend Deepak. Deepak is the Executive Director of Together in Action Trust in the UK. Also, he is a chair of the board of EURA UK, and also a board member of EURA Europe since its inception. Together with those, he is an EURP board member, and EURP stands for European Network on Religion and Belief. Deepak was born in Uganda to parents from India, but most of his life he spent in England. Now he lives in Coventry. Deepak is honored to be with URI from the time of its design, as I already mentioned, establishment and nurturing into a global interfaith movement. In the UK, he is an active interfaith activist for over 40 years, working mostly with young adults to co-create, organize, and deliver work that celebrate and honor the sacred, safeguard nature, and help bring sense of fairness and hope to all. Deepak believes that the journey to building and maintaining healthy and meaningful relations between people who are different is by facing and experience their failures and successes together. Dear Deepak, floor is yours.
Namaste. I've never been introduced in such a lovely way. Thank you very much. A humble practitioner, please. In terms of the title of our session today, addressing polarization in a time of interfaith dialogue, or in a way, so how do we progress interfaith in a time when it's challenging with people and communities and people who believe in a certain way only? So that's my take on the title. I would suggest to you that where the person who started United Religions Initiative, a person by the name of Bill Swing, began after being asked by the United Nations to re-bless the Charter of the United Nations, and his seeking to identify people of faith to come and bless the Charter, 50 years later, as it were, he began with a journey of thinking, who are the people that should come forward from the different world religions to bless the Charter? He traveled the world. He went from one religious leader to another religious leader to another religious leader. And, he engaged with them and said that, can the world religions come together in some kind of platform similar to the United Nations? Could the world religions create a platform by which the world religions can help to make the world a better place? Do you think the world religious leaders managed to say yes? Sadly, the answer was no. The world religious leaders, although they have the words and sometimes they express embracing and loving one another, they were unable to come together and say on a regular basis, we're going to try and make the world as it is a better place. So at the top level, at the very highest leaders in our different religions, they cannot manage to do it. If you then think about the world of polarization as we see it today, it may be that we see people and organizations who are coming to the extremes and imagining in a world different to the way that we imagine. I'm thinking as a collective here. Yeah. The world of polarization, from my opinion, is one where they see the world as black and white, where they see the world as me and mine, where they have comfort zone in that kind of space. And actually, the space that we occupy is the gray, is where Deepak can put his hand up and say, I believe there is some sacred God, some sacred being, some sacred energy. I can believe in that. This is the way I follow it, my Hindu religion. But I can equally say to my friend Karima, as a Muslim, I respect you for the way that you believe and connect with the sacred in your way. And by the way, can we learn and share? Now that's a gray world. And to be in that gray world, actually it takes a lot of courage. Yeah, it takes patience, and it says, I believe and I love God. I know that God will take care of those people who've taken care of other people, of nature and environment. I believe that 100%. Yeah, they don't have to be all Hindu. What we do with one another, how we react with one another, how we live with the nature and the world and the animals, and the way that we think of ourselves, yeah, is what matters. And I believe for the world of interfaith, the family of interfaith people, activists, the group that we have here today, okay, are brave, courageous, loving beings who have a way to connect to the sacred, okay, but all hold on to the beauty of saying others may have a different way, and that's still valid. And in that giving and taking from one another, we can work. We're able to work for the environment. We're able to work to relieve poverty. Here in the UK, we have a lot of desperation and for help. It's the faith communities that have come together and cooperated with one another, irrespective of their religious background, and helped people, irrespective of what God they believe in times of COVID. 100 proof that irrespective of which religion you come from, you can cooperate, you can make things happen. And it's important, from my perspective, that we work like Bishop Bill Swing, not from the leadership level, but from the grassroots level, from the people level. Yeah, one-to-one. And in that, we can build relationships. And in that, we can make things happen. And it doesn't matter what we do together, you know, people who are interested in the environment then can work together with their belief for the environment. We can create that space. If it's for education, then it's for education they can work. And that's the beauty of what Bishop Bilswing has created, the cooperation circles. And it lets people and communities and groups and organizations come together in the way they wish and work for something. So that's the second thing, is that you begin and you continue to have a dialogue, you talk, yeah, you create a space, a means. So it could be that you create an opportunity at the grassroots level where you just say hello and reach your hand out. And then maybe by sharing food together, have begin a dialogue, begin a journey of discovering one another and discovering into the issue that matters to you locally, regionally, nationally, globally, whatever that issue is, and make an impact. And that then strengthens your own belief because you're sharing one another's sacred journeys, but you're also experiencing how to make a difference, how to make the effort and the energy and the gift of life that we've been treasured to give, to be born with, yeah, that time on earth to make a difference. And I think that's the kind of journey that we need to travel. And my love, my hope, my prediction, if that's the right word, is that if we can create that energy, if we can create that wave, if we can make that into a tsunami of energy, and it flows upwards through our different layers and levels of religious hierarchy and bureaucracy, then that tsunami will touch our leaders. When we've created the space at the bottom, our leaders in our religions will come together, that we've created that space for them. And if we create that space for them, then they can actually come together, and as people of religions and organizations of religion, we can come together in the same way as United Nations and have a platform, a mechanism, a process, an engine that then can drive home the kind of needs that we have in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our homes. And through that, the love of God, the touch of spirituality will really be absorbed by people, of people who are looking for something, yeah, but are losing the belief within our religious organizations. I sincerely believe that people are looking, are wanting, but organized religions, yeah, our existing paths and the way that they practice is preventing from that happening. But if we carry on with this journey of building interfaith, of people experiencing interfaith, we working together in the way that we are today, eventually we will see the world religions coming together in some platform and thereby making a change. When that change happens, people will come back to their spirituality, and that will be a good day for us, I think, for each one of us.
Thank you, Deepak. Thanks so much for sharing your insights. And I could see some relationships between what Brian and what Deepak said on the grassroots pushing or supporting the leadership, different sectors of society working together, the importance of social cohesion contribution. So thank you both for your inputs. Now we have about 15 minutes together to get a little bit deeper into the conversation. We were thinking to put you, our dear people, activists, into groups. I would like to know, because a couple of people are now I'm not showing, no, I don't have the video on. So are you interested in joining these groups? I don't want to put people into groups and then maybe people drop off, or so we have a couple of people on camera. So some people dropping off. I think probably it's good to open a general discussion now, because we have not too much time anyway. I see some nods here. And I also would like to thank Deepak for stepping in, because Shahin, and it's wonderful having you here with us too. Shahin has completely lost her voice. So she was hoping to be with us until yesterday. Then we said, relax, heal, and you can show your talent the next time. And Deepak, who is colleague on your IUK board of Shahin, stepped in, which is wonderful. Yeah, so then I'd like to open the floor for comments, questions, to seeing parallels, and also possibly please introduce yourselves, your place, your organization, and your own experiences are valuable to us. So the floor is yours.
Can I say something?
Yes, there we go, Dr. Reverend Yuval Bhatti.
Yeah. Greetings to everyone. Today, I was a bit late, but that Deepak was talking about the grassroots and the relation with the God and the persons who are love to the God. One thing what I know that if you love your neighbors, you may love your people of the God of this world. And love of man, love of God is a true spirit of love of neighbors, love the man. So it's very essential that we should love each other. And the way we work from that always in a deeper way from the grassroots level. Grassroots level is a very roots where we start anything. Because grassroots is a very essential, and we have to go to the grassroots level. Thank you so much for a beautiful input. What I observed that, and we will keep working with that on grassroots level. I am Reverend Yuval Bhatti, and I have a. I know that you are a since its birth. At that time, I was in Pakistan. I work, say, about 20 years, more than 20 years as a volunteer, as a coordinator, as a MCC coordinators, and I serve that URI Pakistan Executive Secretary. I know the Global Council, I know some of you, and now I am the coordinator of a better community for all in Canada. So sending my love, sending my prayer for everyone, and also meanwhile sending the prayer where there is a violence, where there is a frustration, where there is a due to some miscommunication, sometimes fake news in the social media as well. So I love that we should be go further to straightway to strengthen that our beginning of URI, mission of URI, and keeping the view of that URIPP, and together we can make a difference. So thank you so much. I love to joining such a forum. My CC is, although we are in North America, but it's expanded to other religions, other regions. So although I am working with other organization, but on those, whenever it made any program on the Zoom, I seek the collaboration of the other groups.
Thank you,
That's a
Dr.
good way. That's a good
Revel.
way that spread that peace. So thank you so much once again. So God bless everyone. God bless everyone.
Thank you too, Reverend Yuelvati, and it's wonderful you're joining us and you're bringing Asian voice here too, and you have a long experience in URI. So we have another hand raised, and that's Daniel. Comment soignez?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Well, evening for those for who it is the evening, otherwise good morning. So I am Daniel from Search for Common Grounds. So we're a peace building NGO, and we do work a lot on religious engagement and FOB. And I would just like to come back to some of the thematics that have been mentioned during the presentations. Firstly, thank you so much. Those were very interesting, and I really appreciated hearing everything that you had to share. And I was just curious, what do you think when it comes to social cohesion and polarization? And this would be a question not only for our speakers, but also if anyone else in the Zoom call would also like to jump in. What do you think is the role, or would be the role or impact of religious actors during events like elections, for example, and I'm referring, for example, to the European elections coming up this weekend, since I'm here in Brussels, so it is something that is very close. But also just in general at the national level, how do you feel actors of faith should interact with such processes, with the democratic processes in general? Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Any of our speakers or participants likes to respond to the question? What's the role of religious actors, for example, in polarization and particularly in elections? Thank you for the question, Daniel. And I see Brian unmuted. Yeah.
Daniel, enchanté. Thanks for the question. I had, I think one of the big questions that remains from my presentation was, okay, if leaders are important and that's what they can do, but they're not currently working to try to build these bridges, how do we get them to do that? And so I tie back from this to your question. And I think one thing that religious voices could and probably should, I would feel, take a strong role in is advocating for leadership that does this, that highlighting the fact that leaders from whichever side, whichever party, are not trying to bring us together, that they're trying to divide, and that it's I think there's the moral space is there, the legitimacy is there, but also the responsibility is there for religious voices to make that known. Maybe not to support a particular party, but that issue of finding leaders and supporting leaders who will try to bring us together. So that's one way.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian.
And I think it's very, it seems to me a very topical question, and because there is polarization really in most of our countries, and like populist movements and all of that. So I think it's very important to make a stand for
Daniel,
dialogue.
why don't you begin a process of saying, what does an interfaith manifesto look like? So in our different countries, we have different political, we have different beliefs, organizations launching their manifestos. It's about time that we in the interfaith world actually create a manifesto for people in interfaith. What would that look like? I wonder.
I think URI would be a great platform for doing something like that.
I just offered it.
And I think it's a great idea. So maybe if Daniel feels drawn, there we could connect you with others who are drawn towards the same and support such an effort. Yeah. We have Duncan raising his hand.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. My name is Duncan. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm also URI Europe chair. I would say I'm very much excited about this conversation that we are having. And the question Daniel raised also takes me back to the very beginning when URI was in its inceptional stages, where one of the motives, or actually the driving force for Bishop Swing to start the URI was the very question that he asked himself: if the nations of the world can work together in the United Nations to promote peace among the countries, among the people, why shouldn't the religious leaders do that? And so, with that question, that took him to form the United Nations, the United Religious Initiative. And I think the question is very relevant even up today, especially today, because going back to your question, Daniel, I think that there is a lot of opportunities still for religious leaders to reach out to each other, not only in terms of interfaith, and I'm very happy that there are many religious leaders who are working together, but also on the level of intra-faith, because there are also religious leaders from the same faith who are barely not working together or are having animosity with each other. So I think that's a huge challenge, and it's a very relevant question that I myself, I'm also a pastor, I'm also a religious leader, and I think it's very, very necessary for religious leaders to stand forward and to show to people that they are they can be respectful to other people's faith. And I think in doing that, because a lot of people in many, especially non-Western countries, a lot of people have high esteem for religious leaders, and if they can see that their leaders, their religious leaders, are open to people with other views or from other traditions, that could be like it could encourage them also during in times of elections to treat their fellow countrymen with respect. So I hope that answers your question, Danielle.
Thank you very much, Duncan. And in the chat, there is a conversation happening. So there, Shaheen suggested that there might be a group actually working on such a manifesto. And Daniel is actually prepared that people contact him. So please, if you are interested in creating such a manifesto, that is a great initiative. I think is a beautiful idea. Please reach out to Daniel directly or to us so that we can put you into contact. And I think that would be a great achievement. It's a manifesto to reach out to the political sphere, to political leaders, possibly also to the people who then can influence the leaders. Thank you all for your contributions. Our time is almost up. It's been a super exciting, interesting conversations. Big thank you to Brian, to Deepak for jumping and bringing your experience to us. For all of you who came, I'm always thrilled what a beautiful, diverse group of people it is from different spots of the world, all well-intentioned. It's really a blessing having you with us. And big thank you to Baraza as well for partnering, and there's a tradition by now. And I would like to give last minutes to Leila because we would like to have your feedback. Please, that's important for us because we always want to learn.
Yes, thank you again, everyone. This was another great opportunity to come together and exchange ideas. Huge thank you to Brian and for Deepak taking role of Shaheen. Thank you, Shaheen, for joining us despite not feeling well and contributing in the chat. in order to make more of these webinars and to follow your needs and to learn how this was experienced, I would like to put poll on the screen, and I hope that it will work. So I will launch it now. Let me know if you can see. There is a 4 question. Please just check one box for each question and submit your answers. We will appreciate receiving your responses because it will help us evaluate the pool, evaluate the experience of the webinar, and know how are some things that maybe we can change or keep the same for the future. So when you click all 4 questions, then just submit it and we will see on the screen. So I see some responses already coming in, which is great. And we are looking forward that all of you who are on the call do so. In the meantime, once again, use chat option to collect contact information of those who express interest, either to making the manifesto, or maybe you found some interest colleagues that you can explore collaborating on in the future. So please use this opportunity as connecting point to do so. Yeah, and thank you again on behalf of Fiera Europe and Baraza for joining us, and we will keep you updated about any upcoming webinars. Yeah, I saw a lot of responses are coming your way, but we will keep the pool open for a little bit longer because some of you are still responding. But if you already did the pool like Biff did, I think, please feel free to leave and we can just keep it open a few more minutes for others to finish responding. Thank you again for coming. And yeah, huge thank you to our speakers, to Brian, Dr. Brian, to Deepak, Shaheen for joining, and Riaz for the great collaboration, and Diona as well on behalf of the Baraza.